Hi, it's Craig from Limar Helmets UK and welcome to episode 2 of the Limar Focus Show. Today we're focusing on the Limar Air Speed. It's our fastest helmet. We're going to show you that it's actually one of the fastest, if not the fastest helmet out there today. And by just putting this on your head, you can improve your performance. And if you're a triathlete, this should be your go-to helmet. Let's dive in. So, we're all in lockdown. All the bike shows have been cancelled. You can't come to see our products. So the aim of these Limar Focus shows is that we can now bring our product to you. So today we're talking about the Limar Air Speed helmet. Now, to fully tell the story of how this helmet came to be where it is today, we need to actually rewind 3 years back to 2017. And that was when Limar went back into the pro peloton with the Astana Pro Cycling team. So for the first year of the sponsorship, Astana wore the Ultralight Plus. Now, the Ultralight Plus is the lightest helmet in the world. So at the end of that first year, Astana wanted to go more down a aerodynamic route rather than the lightweight route, which had been the focus for Limar for the previous years. So a design collaboration started between Limar and Astana to basically make the fastest aerodynamic helmet they possibly could for the team. Now, as that design collaboration started to actually broaden out, what actually happened was we ended up with a range of aero road helmets that actually all specialize in certain weather conditions for certain races. Now, this hadn't been done before. So no matter what race Astana was in or what conditions they were in, one of the helmets would perfectly suit that particular day's racing and weather conditions. Now, the Limar Air Speed is the fastest, most aerodynamic helmet in the Limar Air Revolution range. And from all of the testing that Astana have done, and we've done as well at the UK wind tunnel facilities, we know that it is one of the fastest aero road helmets out there. Now, the truth is, no one can definitively say that their helmet is the fastest. And the reason for that is that there's so many other elements as well as the helmet that actually make the helmet perform really well. And that is a lot to do with the rider, the shape of the rider, and the rider's position on the bike. Now, we did multiple tests at multiple facilities using different test subjects, all of different sizes in different positions on the bike. And the one thing that we did notice was that the same 3 helmets were always at the top of the charts. And in that top 3, every time, was the Air Speed. Sometimes the Air Speed was the fastest, sometimes it was second, and sometimes it was third, because it was very dependent on the suiting the rider's position. But one thing that we did notice every single time with every single test subject was that the first test was always done in a complete head-on wind in the wind tunnel. So no yaw angle whatsoever. And like I say, the results were always in the top 3, either first, second or third, depending on the rider. But every time we started to introduce a yaw angle, which means basically you start to turn the rider to the side, so you're getting more of a cross headwind, going to eventually a more or less complete crosswind, the Air Speed always improved its performance massively over its rivals. So let's just say, for example, on was test subject on a head-on wind, it was in 3rd place, shall we say. I mean, I do remember this happening. As we started to increase that yaw angle, then it started to close the gap and eventually actually go to the top of the charts in our tests. If it was the fastest in the head-on crosswind, the more we went to yaw angle, it just increased its gap to the other helmets. So that proved to us, because it happened so many times in so many tests, that actually this helmet performs incredibly well in cross headwinds. Now, if you think about it, it's very rare actually that when you're out on your bike, you've got an absolute dead-on headwind. And if you have, this helmet's going to perform at the very top with those other two helmets. But most of the time you do have a slight cross headwind or a crosswind. And that's when this helmet really comes into its own. And the reason for that is this vent here is incredibly good at grabbing that wind and channeling it through the helmet and then out of this little exhaust port here. So that the wind doesn't hit the helmet and get disrupted. It actually flows it through the side and out there. So with all that data that we got and we collected, that is why we are super, super confident in the performance of this helmet, because in all conditions, it absolutely performed at the very, very top. So once Astana started using this helmet, now Astana usually use this helmet in the Spring Classics and at the Giro d'Italia, where the conditions tend to be a little bit cooler because it's earlier in the year. And the reason for that is when you make a helmet this aerodynamic, there's usually a compromise on the ventilation. So as you get into the summer and they start to race in the Tour de France and the Vuelta a España, where it gets obviously a lot hotter, they will switch to one of the other helmets. So they might go to the Air Pro, for example. We featured the Air Pro in episode 1 of the Focus Show. If you've not watched it, go and watch that one, because that will explain why that helmet performs so well in super hot conditions. So, like I say, this one gets used by Astana in the Spring Classics and also at the Giro d'Italia. So last year, Pello Bilbao won a stage at the Giro d'Italia wearing the Air Speed. In fact, we can just have a quick look at that right now.
Y se queda con la victoria de etapa. Celebra su primer triunfo en las grandes vueltas. Sin duda, el hombre del día.
So there was Pello Bilbao taking a great stage win at the Giro d'Italia last year. So once Astana was seen racing in this helmet, we started to get a lot of UK pro teams starting to inquire about the possibility of sponsorship. So last year we sponsored 3 teams, and this year we've sponsored 3 teams again. And this year we've sponsored Swift Carbon UK Pro Cycling, who wore the helmet last year, Vitus Pro Cycling, who are wearing it this year, and the Cams Tifosi women's team. And the great feedback that we got from them was that actually in UK conditions, so okay, we do occasionally get some hot weather, but usually, high 20 degrees, then the ventilation on the Air Speed was absolutely fine for UK weather. They raced in it all year. Only when they went and raced abroad and went into super, super hot conditions did they consider going to one of the other Limar helmets. So for UK conditions, the ventilation on this helmet will surprise you massively. We've had some warm weather here, early spring in the UK. I went out and actually, so this is my helmet here in the matte blue. So I went out and did some riding in some pretty hot weather wearing my Air Speed and absolutely no trouble whatsoever. Not even a bead of sweat, And that was just because the ventilation, it works incredibly well. You've actually got in the front of the helmet here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 vents, of which 3 of them in the front here are really big. And these 2 here are also great at catching those crosswinds, which is why it performs so well in a crosswind. You've then got really deep channels inside the helmet, which allows that air to go over the top of your head. And then these huge exhaust ports at the back. I mean, look at the size of those. They're absolutely enormous, which allows the hot air to go straight out the back of the helmet, which means it just keeps you really cool. So for UK riding conditions, you're not going to have any issues riding this, wearing this helmet whatsoever. We've got a lot of ambassadors who wear this helmet as well. They all comment on how surprised they are at how good the ventilation is. So that's the biggest worry for a lot of people when they buy a really aerodynamic helmet. Am I going to overheat? Am I going to be too hot in this helmet? In the UK, absolutely not. You know, if you're going to go riding abroad in the middle of summer, then yes, okay, I wouldn't advise going riding for 5-6 hours in the mountains in super hot conditions. So you're going to want probably a more fully vented helmet like the Air Pro, like I say, was in episode 1. Now, once we got that feedback from our pro teams here and realised that it performed so well as all the data we have from the wind tunnel and from Astana, we started to realise that actually this helmet suited triathlon incredibly well. Triathlon was something that we hadn't really looked at until the start of 2019. So we're very fortunate that we have some great contacts with the Brownlee Triathlon Centre in Leeds. So we went up there, we spoke to a few of the GB triathletes, we gave them an Air Speed and just said, please just go and try it, give us some feedback. So they tried it out and wore them for probably about 2 or 3 months. And then they started to give us some feedback on it. And obviously we showed them the wind tunnel data. So they were really interested in it because they knew, you know, we proved to them that the helmet was going to improve their performance on the bike. That was the key thing. But the one thing that all the GB triathletes, so the GB triathletes who wore this helmet in competition last year were, on the men's side, you had Alex Yee, Tom Bishop, Sam Dickinson. On the women's side, you had Jess Learmont wore it last year, Georgia Taylor-Brown, Vicky Holland. Those girls all wore it towards the end of the season last year. I mean, they're some of the biggest Olympic hopefuls, you know, that GB have got, some of the biggest names in triathlon. And the feedback that they gave us was, after they kind of done a bit of testing with it, was basically that it had to have a magnetic buckle for triathlon transitions. So that was something that we learned very quickly, was actually that transition in triathlon is incredibly important. You know, you just spend 1 or 2 seconds too long in transition and you just miss that front group coming out of the water, that can be the end of your race. So, you know, we spoke to a lot of the triathletes as well, and they told us these stories where they've come out of the water in like cooler conditions and basically their fingers are just numb and you just can't, you know, coherently put the buckle together just because you've got no feeling in your fingers. So we went away and then we decided to add the magnetic buckle to the Air Speed. So the great thing about the magnetic buckle is, or you don't actually have to, all you have to do is just show it to each other and it just goes on. To undo it, it just slides out. So again, you know, you don't have to be super precise, just show it and it'll just auto self-locate itself. Again, if I just show you this way, to take it off, it just slides out. So when we started to show that to, you know, triathletes, they absolutely love the magnetic buckle. It's the final piece of the jigsaw for a triathlete, and that is why we then widened that out and we became the official helmet supplier to British Triathlon. So, you know, I don't know exactly what the percentage is, but, you know, definitely around 65-70% of the GB elite Olympic, they called them podium performance. There's about 40, I think, something like that, across all the different triathlon centres around the country. You know, you've got a very high percentage of them that are now competing in the Air Speed, which is fantastic. And also, we've had some, go and have a look at 220 Triathlon magazine on their online site. Just put in Limar Air Speed there. You'll see the reviews that they've done. You know, in the first review that they did of the Air Speed, they described it as, you know, I think they gave it like it was 90%, and they described it as a genuine class leader. So for all you triathletes out there, you know, we really do believe that this is the go-to helmet for triathlon now. It really is. We know aerodynamically it's right up there with the best. In those sort of cross headwinds, we do believe it is the best. And also now you've got that magnetic buckle to make sure that those transitions go super fast as well, and you don't have any problems with cold hands in transition. So all that thrown in, you also have the AirFit retention system. So it's very, very minimal and lightweight. You've got your little dial here, and it also moves up and down on a slider at the back. And the thing that I really like about this is that the back of your head the back of your head doesn't come straight down. The back of your head comes down and it goes that way and curves into your neck. So if you watch the way that this retention system comes down, can you see the way it comes down that way? So what that does is it maintains the angle at the back of your head, which means that when you dial it in, you're not having to dial it in further to get the reach to your neck if the retention system came straight down. Because it comes down, it goes that way. You don't have to tighten it in as far to get the comfort, and also the angle of the retention system is absolutely perfect to get it really comfortable right in the back of your neck there. You also get the little comfort chin strap, which just keeps it super comfortable right underneath your chin here as well. So there you have it, the Limar Air Speed, a beautiful helmet. I mean, it just looks fast, you know. It's a beautiful helmet. The new colorways are absolutely amazing. They're all going to come up at the end of this video. So there's 4 standard colors. You've got red, black, you've got the matte blue, white. There is a matte white and a matte black. And also we've done 2 special editions in this helmet as well. There's a GB edition, which has got the GB flag on the back and, you know, GB colours. That matches the GB tri-suits for all the age group triathletes and looks absolutely fantastic. And we've also just launched the Welsh version of this helmet, which looks absolutely amazing. It's got the fleur-de-lis on the top, it's got the Welsh dragon on the side, it's red, white and green. It just looks absolutely fantastic. So if you're a Welsh cyclist or a Welsh triathlete, then that's something that you would definitely be interested in looking at. So like I say, this helmet is also the official helmet of British Triathlon. It's also, we've got partnerships as the official helmet of Welsh cycling, and we're also the official helmet of the Tour Series race as well. Astana wear this helmet, 3 UK pro teams wear this helmet, GB triathletes wear this helmet, but we also have a lot of other sportive riders who also basically just want to get the maximum out of the performance of the helmet that they wear. And when you put this helmet on your head, it doesn't matter what type of riding you do, it is going to improve your performance. We've got a great hashtag that we got on Instagram and Twitter called savingwattswithlimar. That is exactly what happens when you wear this helmet. You save watts. So that might be something that saves you performance in an actual race or a triathlon, or actually in a long sportive, it saves you energy over that 100-mile ride. It's an absolutely amazing helmet. It's the Limar Air Speed. It retails for £179.99. It comes in 3 sizes. Okay, well that's it for episode 2. Please keep an eye out for episode 3, where we're going to take a look at the Limar Air Master helmet. We'll see you then.